Jingliang versus Khamzat Chimaev takes place this weekend on the main card of UFC 267, Blachowicz versus Teixeira, and I can't wait for the long-anticipated return of Khamzat Chimaev. Boars the Wolf returns to the cage against his most dangerous test yet, Jingliang, top contender in the welterweight division, number 11 in the world, coming off an amazing win to bounce back after his loss to Neil Magny against Santiago Ponzinibbio, who's a guy who formerly beat Neil Magny in his career. Great win by Jingliang, returns to winning form, gets himself in the rankings at number 11, but now he has drawn the short straw and he is taking on Khamzat Chimaev, who's trying to get towards those rankings so he can slowly get towards the top of the division, because let's not forget, they weren't even thinking of giving him a guy in the teens of the welterweight rankings, or number 10, number 9, number 8, number 7. They were looking to give this guy Leon Edwards at one point, so they're really trying to jump Khamzat Chimaev right to the top of the line, ahead of everyone else, and this is the way to do it against a good contender in Jingliang, a dangerous contender in Jingliang, and more importantly, a guy who he will get respect for beating. However, I say that when he first took on Gerald Meerschaert, people kind of scoffed at the matchup being made, but Gerald Meerschaert just beat Makhmud Muradov by second round submission and was doing okay on the feet against him as well. So Khamzat Chimaev's immediate first round KO win is starting to look really good in hindsight. Now, of course, the Rhys McKee win and the John Phillips win aren't too good in all honesty. Rhys McKee is now back at Cage Warriors. He won his last fight, I guess, but he also lost to Alex Morono, got cut by the UFC. John Phillips, I mean, I don't remember a fight he's won off the top of my head, so it wasn't really a great matchup either, but he took it on short notice, got himself into the UFC, upper weight class at middleweight. He's only had one fight at welterweight, and the guy he beat isn't even on the roster, and he's getting number 11 in the world, Jingliang. That just goes to show the amount of hype that there is behind Khamzat Chimaev right now. Evil Habib is in town. And I also want to look at Khamzat Chimaev's previous to the UFC record, because he beat Hong Loa, who was 4-0 at the time. He also beat Ikram Aliskerov, who's now, I believe, 11-1 since losing to Khamzat Chimaev, and he was 8-0 at the time and was a great prospect fighting out of Dagestan Makachalaka. He was a very good guy himself, but also Chimaev, a very good guy, a much better guy than Ikram Aliskerov, but Aliskerov showed some problems. He stuffed a couple of takedowns of Chimaev, but also Chimaev showed in that fight for the first time in his career, really, that he's got really devastating power, because we'd seen him KO people before. We knew if he swings hard and lands on the chin, he's probably going to get a KO blow. But you don't remember, he dropped Ikram Aliskerov with a jab in that fight. And it wasn't even a good jab. It was just like a range-finding jab that he was using to set up his right hand. And it just dropped Ikram Aliskerov. This guy's got real power in his hands, enough to KO big middleweights like Gerald Meerschaert. But Jingliang is also a guy with massive power in his hands. Of course, that last KO win that he has over Santiago Ponzinibbio. But also Santiago Ponzinibbio had been out of the cage for about 2 years, a very long time, battling infections, battling all sorts of things that were keeping him out of the cage, injuries and other illnesses that he had. Comes back, gets KO'd in the first round by Jingliang, and you could argue that maybe Chimaev's been a bit inactive here. It's the first time in his career that he's taken over a year off ever in his career. Now, before the UFC, he actually had a bit of long time off as well. I think about 10 months before he took on John Phillips, because everything got delayed because the whole world went absolutely crazy at the time of his debut. But you could argue that because of the layoff for Khamzat Chimaev, Jingliang, who's active, who fought this year in 2021, also hasn't fought in 9 months, but still he could be switched on enough early to switch off Khamzat Chimaev early. And that could happen, and that's where the excitement from this matchup comes, because Jingliang is very explosive on the feet. He has one-punch KO power. He has a finish over Leski dos Santos, who I believe could have beaten Muslim Salikov, also is on the card this weekend as well, by the way. He has a finish over David Zawada, who's a pretty hard guy to finish, in all honesty. He has a win over Abubakar Nurmagomedov, went to a decision with Ramazan Emeev, and a close decision as well. He has a win over some other guys and some KOs over Zach Otto, but Zach Otto's not really a guy with a great chin. He beat Bobby Nash at one point by KO. He does have KO power, but only recently does it feel like he's really got the striking level to land it consistently and consecutively in a bunch of fights that he's had. However, I do want to bring up the Neil Magny fight, because that is a dangerous one when predicting this one between him and Chimaev, because Chimaev is going to go out there, he's going to try and earn a little bit of respect on the feet early, and then he's going to shoot a takedown, take Jingliang to the ground, and I believe he's going to mash his face in and then submit him with an arm triangle or a rear naked choke, because Li Jingliang, consecutively in his career, has had the same problem over and over and over again. It's pressure by a bigger opponent, and it's takedowns. And it seems to be a common theme in Li Jingliang's career, and I just don't like that red flag when you're going up against the level of grappler that Khamzat Chimaev is. He doesn't really fail takedowns in his career. Now, Aliskerov showed him some problems here and there, but they really weren't great takedown attempts by Khamzat Chimaev. But we've seen in the UFC, he's picking people up, carrying them to his corner, and just dunking them on the ground in front of his cornermen so he can get advice from them. Like, he's choosing not just if he wants to take his opponent down, but where he wants them down. Like, oh, I'll take you down over here on this side of the cage, then I'll fucking walk over to the other side of the cage and just plonk you down over there. Like, it's really a sunning that Chimaev does to people out there. Can he do it to Li Jingliang? I believe he can, because Neil Magny is a bit sore here. And he got out-grappled by Chiesa, and I know it's hard to sort of make these comparisons because Chimaev isn't even ranked, and Chiesa's one of the top guys in the world, but Neil Magny is not top of the food chain grappler. I'm sure we can agree with that. He's had problems with grapplers in his career as well. But he was still able to go out there and take down Li Jingliang a bunch of times, and not just a bunch of times, but really start to beat him up on the feet even in those later rounds as well. You saw Li Jingliang in the second and third round not do anything whatsoever. He had a decent start of the first round. He caught Neil Magny with a big punch. Neil Magny took it, got the clinch, eventually got a takedown on Li Jingliang, got him to the ground. Li Jingliang slowly worked his way back up to his feet, but then Neil Magny just kept the pressure on him. In the second and third round, he completely broke Li Jingliang, and Jingliang just didn't really do anything in those later rounds. He started to slow down, his volume came way down, he wasn't landing anything anymore. I think he threw, 4 punches in the second round against Neil Magny. Magny gets more takedowns in the second round, ends up on top. A lot of top control for him. Now, of course, Li Jingliang also got his own takedowns, but it was very different when Magny got his takedowns compared to when Li Jingliang got his takedowns. Jingliang seemed to get them as like a moment of breath, like, oh my god, I finally can get a breather. Now I've got Neil Magny to the ground, and then Magny would get his way back up, and Li Jingliang would think, oh shit, this is not a breather that I wanted. I'm now back in a fight with Neil Magny, and Magny completely outstruck him. 123-16, 74-16. Neil Magny's also a guy with a very long reach for the welterweight division. Likewise for Khamzat Chimaev, a massive guy for the welterweight division, 6'2", very imposing in the cage. He's got a 3.5-inch reach advantage over Li Jingliang, and I know that doesn't mean a lot in MMA, but it does a little bit when you're trying to predict fights, and a guy's got one-punch KO power, because that could be the difference between a guy landing on your chin and a guy missing completely on you. You've got a bit of range to hide behind. You've got a bit of reach that you can use to keep Li Jingliang at bay, to dodge some of his big punches. And I think Li Jingliang, he froze to KO people. I do want to mention that, because let's talk about the other times he's been out-grappled in his career. He got out-grappled against Jake Matthews. He got out-grappled against Keita Nakamura. He's been out-grappled a couple of times in his career, and not to mention, he got dropped by Keita Nakamura. He got dropped by Bobby Nash. He got smacked around the fucking cage in the first round against Jake Matthews, almost 10-8'd. I think Jake Matthews put him down twice in that fight, if I remember correctly, and took him down in the later rounds and stayed on top. And Li Jingliang, there was a moment where he was in a submission attempt. I think it was a guillotine, and he was like sticking his fingers in Jake Matthews' eyes. Very, not the most friendly guy back then, but he's become more of a friendly guy. I saw how he cared for Santiago Ponzinibbio after getting a KO against him. I just think there's just a game plan out there that Chimaev can follow, and it's just to grapple with Li Jingliang. Make him grapple, make him work. If he gets back up, go to it again, make him work some more, and eventually that power's going to be gone, and he's going to look like he did in the second and third round against Neil Magny, where he had nothing left. He knew he'd been out-grappled. He didn't land the KO blow in the first round, and he kind of just looked completely done. And I think that's what's going to happen here, but Khamzat Chimaev is very dangerous. I had a point I was going to make here in a second. Jingliang gets dropped a lot in his fights. He gets dropped a lot in his fights, often. Jake Matthews dropped him twice. Bobby Nash dropped him as well. And I feel like with Li Jingliang, this is my point, he gets KOs on people in the first round. Good. Chimaev also can get KOs against people in the first round, including Gerald Meerschaert, which I think is a very good KO to have in the first round, especially under a minute. Chimaev throws punches perfectly down the center, like they aren't even intending to KO you, and people go. He lands the jab on Aliskerov, then he ducks under and lands a perfect uppercut on Aliskerov, nice and tight, nice and compact, no wasted movement whatsoever, straight to the target. He lands his punch with brutal efficiency and lays his opponent out cold 9 times out of 10 when he lands it. Li Jingliang throws to KO people. He swings like a maniac. The shot that he landed against Santiago Ponzinibbio looked like it came all the way back from fucking homeland China, all the way from the rice fields, swinging over with a left hook, lands on Santiago Ponzinibbio as he's leaning back after setting up a jab. Down goes Santiago Ponzinibbio, but Li Jingliang is winding up these punches, and you can see him do it against Neil Magny as well. He goes square for a second. His stance starts to become like a little bit of a walking stance, and he starts swinging left, right, looking for the big shot. And I think when you do that and you square up your hips and you start loading up those big shots from all the way out wide, one, they're easier to avoid, especially when you're a guy who with a reach advantage like Khamzat Chimaev and a size advantage as well. And two, blast double leg right underneath him. You square up the hips, you start swinging left, right, like he tried to do against Neil Magny in the first round. Blast double leg from Khamzat Chimaev. Get in on a single leg, get in on a double leg, try and take him down. And I think it's going to make Li Jingliang not want to throw the KO blows because he's worried the whole time about Chimaev taking him down, and it's a game of options. MMA is a game of options. If you have more options, 9 times out of 10 you're going to win. It's why Usman's so effective right now as a champion of the welterweight division. He can choose where he wants to fight. He's taken on Masvidal. He'll mix in some takedowns, but he'll also do it on the feet as well nowadays. But previously to his hands getting a little bit better, Usman would fight Masvidal. I'll hold him up against a cage. I'm fighting Gilbert Burns. I'll keep it range with a jab, and I'll stay on the feet with him the entire time. I'm fighting Colby Covington. I'm not going to try and wrestle with him. I'm going to stay on the feet the entire time. I'm going to work the body. He's got options on ways that he can neutralize different opponents. And I feel like Chimaev has all of those options. He can KO Li Jingliang in the first round. He can take him down if he wants to. He can hold him against a cage because he'll be stronger there. Li Jingliang has to KO Chimaev in the first round. Otherwise, he's going to start to slow down as the fight goes on. And he can't take down Chimaev. Like, in no way do I see him at all trying to do that. And even if he does try it, I don't see him being successful in that either. So I feel like Chimaev having that mental advantage, knowing that Jingliang's never going to try and take him down and not going to be able to get him down if he does try. He has that advantage over Jingliang, where Jingliang's going to be second-guessing most of his strikes. He probably gets hit on the feet here as well against Chimaev. I think he's going to take a big shot on the feet. He's going to back up. He's going to go swinging reckless. Chimaev's going to duck underneath it, get the takedown, try and do some damage. Now, maybe Li Jingliang does survive past the first round, because let's not forget, John Phillips, I believe, survived past the first round against Khamzat Chimaev. I think it was a second round finish, but that was also on short notice. I think we'll see an equal second round finish here for Khamzat Chimaev. I don't think it's going to be done in the first round. I think Li Jingliang is going to stay composed on the ground. He's not going to give up any submission attempts. He's going to try and reclaim guard. He's going to try and get wrist control. Chimaev's going to land a lot of shots on him. Get positional control, keep him on the ground for the entire round. Maybe we have a moment where Li Jingliang's up on one knee against a cage and Chimaev's got a body lock and he just drags him back down to the canvas again, stays on top, gets inside control. The round's over. In the second round, Li Jingliang knows he's been mauled on the ground. He can't get back up and stay up once Chimaev gets him down. He's second-guessing himself even more. He tries to load up some uppercuts, but he gets stung on the chin with like a stiff 1-2 from Chimaev. Then he starts swinging wild again, looking for a finish, because that's the only chance he has at that point. Gets taken down again. Starts to seem a little bit more depressed on the ground. Doesn't really go his way. And then all of a sudden, Khamzat Chimaev's got an arm triangle, a dash choke. I'll say he actually gets like a... What do I want to say he gets? I'll say he gets an arm triangle choke. Bullyish submission. I think Li Jingliang is going to be so focused on not letting himself get submitted that it's going to have to be like a big brother submission move that doesn't really take the most technique to set up, but you can kind of just muscle around your opponent and force them into that position. I reckon I'm going to go with an arm triangle choke in the second round for Khamzat Chimaev. Massive matchup in the welterweight division. The winner of this one is going to be in a position to jump way up the rankings for sure, because let's not forget Santiago Ponzinibbio's recently bounced back with a win. This would put the winner of this, if it's Li Jingliang, he's probably going to move up around number 9, just below Neil Magny at number 8. If it's Khamzat Chimaev, he's probably going to take Li Jingliang's position at number 11. And then if I was Khamzat Chimaev, and I won against Li Jingliang, and I was going to be ranked number 11 in the welterweight division. There's a guy in the top of the division that doesn't have a matchup right now, and probably won't have a matchup for a very long time because he's friends with Vicente Luque. They could do Luque versus Thompson too. They could do Luque versus Bilal Muhammad. They could do a lot of matchups for Vicente Luque. They could even do Luque versus Diaz. In fact, that's the one that Dana White's actually interested in making. So, if I was Khamzat Chimaev, I'd get on the microphone, I'd call out Gilbert Burns, who doesn't have a matchup right now, who needs a big name opponent so he can garner some hype to get his own title shot down the line, and that would equally be a very, very intriguing matchup. If Chimaev can out-grapple a jiu-jitsu guy like Burns, who's also very dangerous on the feet and has explosive power, who's been tested against other fighters in the division, who had a decent scrap with Usman, the champion, and actually hurt him in the first round, that would be a big test for Chimaev if he does get past this one, if they do want to fast-track him to the belt. Call out Gilbert Burns, get in the top of the division. Otherwise, call out Bilal Muhammad. Call out Neil Magny, because that was a matchup that you were willing to make before, Neil Magny, so maybe you'll be willing to make it again if he's ranked in the welterweight division and there's something you can gain from it. Or, call out Stephen Thompson, because he can't really grapple, and you'll probably out-grapple him as well. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. The Wolf is back. Looking forward to it. Will the hype train be derailed by the leech? It could well be. I don't see it happening. Goodbye.